Marcus Whitfield grabbed the microphone and pointed directly at his wife standing alone in the crowd. "You see this woman? She's the biggest mistake I ever made. Worthless. A charity case I should have thrown out years ago." 500 elite guests gasped. His mistress laughed beside him. His wife, Amara, didn't cry. She didn't run. She pulled out her phone and typed 3 words to a contact labeled Daddy. "Come in now." What Marcus didn't know? The woman he just destroyed in front of New York's elite was the only daughter of Solomon Morrison, founder of a $40 billion empire. And her father was already in the building. Comment below with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor. Marcus Whitfield didn't even flinch. He had thrown it deliberately, watching the golden liquid splash across the pristine white tablecloth at the VIP table of his company's anniversary gala. "Get me another one," he snapped at the nearest waiter. "And make sure it's actually cold this time. I'm not paying $10,000 a table to drink warm champagne." The waiter scrambled away. Marcus adjusted his Tom Ford tuxedo and surveyed the ballroom with the satisfaction of a king examining his kingdom. The Grand Marquis Hotel, 500 guests. Every major player in New York finance, tech, and media packed into one glittering room to celebrate 10 years of Whitfield Technologies. His company, his night, his triumph. "Baby, you're so tense," Sophia Chen purred, sliding her manicured hand up his arm. Her red Valentino dress clung to every curve, designed to make every woman in the room jealous, and every man forget his wife existed. "Try to enjoy yourself. This is your night." Marcus looked at Sophia and felt a familiar surge of pride. This was the kind of woman a man like him deserved. Beautiful, ambitious, sharp. Not like... He scanned the room until his eyes found her. Amara. His wife stood near the back of the ballroom, alone, holding a glass of water she hadn't touched. She wore a simple navy dress, clearly off the rack, probably from some department store where normal people shopped. Her natural hair was pulled back in a modest style. No diamonds, no designer labels. She looked like a caterer who had wandered into the wrong party. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "She actually came," he muttered. Sophia followed his gaze and let out a delicate laugh. "Oh, honey, did you expect her to stay home like a good little housewife?" "I expected her to have some dignity. Look at her. She looks like she's here to clean the place, not celebrate it." "Well," Sophia said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "after tonight, you won't have to worry about her anymore. The divorce papers are ready. Jenkins said she'll get nothing. That prenup you made her sign is airtight." Marcus nodded slowly. 5 years. 5 years of being shackled to a woman who had served her purpose and outlived her usefulness. 5 years of her quiet presence dragging him down, embarrassing him at events, failing to be the trophy wife his status demanded. Tonight was the night he would finally cut the dead weight. "I want to do it publicly," Marcus said. Sophia's eyes widened. "What?" "The announcement. I want everyone to see. I want her to understand, in front of all these people, exactly what she is and what she isn't." "Marcus, that's..." Sophia paused, a slow smile spreading across her face. "That's brilliant. The press is here. The board is here. Everyone who matters is here. When they see you cut her loose, they'll know you're a man who doesn't tolerate weakness." "Exactly." Marcus grabbed another champagne glass from a passing waiter and clinked it against Sophia's. "To new beginnings," he said. "To us," she replied. Across the ballroom, Amara watched them toast. She had seen it all. The thrown glass, the whispered conversation, the way they looked at her like she was a stain on the carpet. Her hand was steady as she set down her water glass. She had learned, over 5 years of marriage to Marcus Whitfield, to keep her hands steady, to keep her face neutral, to be invisible. Because invisible women see everything. She pulled out her phone and checked the message that had arrived an hour ago. My plane landed at 7. Security team is staging at the service entrance. Say the word and we move. Love, Dad. Amara didn't reply. Not yet. 5 years ago, she had made a choice. She had walked away from everything, everyone she knew, to find something real. To find love that had nothing to do with her family's money or her father's power. She had met Marcus at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. He was broke, brilliant, desperate, and burning with ambition. She was working at a non-profit, wearing clothes from thrift stores, pretending to be nobody special. He had no idea who she was, who her father was. And she had wanted to keep it that way. Because Amara Morrison, daughter of Solomon Morrison, founder of Morrison Capital Partners, one of the most powerful black men in American finance, had spent her entire life being loved for what she represented. The money, the connections, the name. Just once, she wanted someone to love her for herself. Marcus Whitfield had promised her that love. And for 6 months, before she secretly funneled $5 million through a shell company called Zenith Trust to fund his failing startup, she had believed him. Then came the success, the funding rounds, the magazine covers, the penthouse apartment he bought without consulting her, the late nights that turned into missed anniversaries, the networking events that smelled like Sophia's perfume when he came home at 3 a.m. She had given him 5 years to prove he was the man he claimed to be. 5 years, and tonight, he was going to show her exactly who he really was. Mrs. Whitfield? Amara turned. A young server stood beside her, looking nervous. Your husband requested that you join him at the main table. He said he has an announcement to make. Amara smiled gently. Thank you. Please tell him I'll be there in a moment. The server hurried away. Amara looked at her phone one more time. She typed 4 words. Wait for my signal. Then she straightened her department store dress and walked toward her fate. The main table was elevated on a small platform at the center of the ballroom. It was positioned so everyone could see the CEO of Whitfield Technologies and his closest associates. The board members, the major investors, the beautiful women who decorated the arms of powerful men. And now, his wife. Marcus watched her approach with barely concealed contempt. There she is, he announced loudly enough for the nearby tables to hear. I was starting to think you got lost. I was just getting some air, Amara said quietly, taking the empty seat beside him. The seat that was notably positioned at the far end of the table, away from the center of attention. Air, Marcus repeated mockingly. He turned to the silver-haired man beside him. Senator Crawford, have you met my wife? Amara is very fond of air and water, and anything else that doesn't require intelligence or sophistication. Senator Crawford let out an uncomfortable chuckle. Marcus, I'm sure your wife has many fine qualities. Name one, Marcus said flatly. The table went silent. Amara felt the familiar burn of humiliation spreading through her chest. But she kept her face calm, her hands steady. I think, Sophia interjected smoothly, what Marcus means is that Amara is very understated. She prefers to let Marcus shine, which is sweet, really. Some women know their place. More uncomfortable laughter. Amara looked at Sophia. For a moment, their eyes met. Sophia's gaze was pure triumph, the look of a woman who knew she had already won. Amara didn't blink. "You have no idea what's coming," she thought. "Actually," Amara said, her voice soft but clear, "I do have a quality Marcus seems to have forgotten." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Enlighten us." "Patience." The word hung in the air. Marcus laughed, but there was a flicker of something, uncertainty maybe, in his eyes. "Patience," he repeated. "That's your great quality? The ability to sit around doing nothing?" "The ability to wait," Amara corrected gently. "To watch. To understand exactly who someone really is before making any decisions." Marcus leaned back in his chair, amusement spreading across his face. "And what exactly have you decided about me, Amara?" Amara looked at him, really looked at him. At the man she had loved, the man she had funded, the man who had taken everything she gave and convinced himself he had earned it. "I've decided," she said slowly, "that you're exactly who you always were. I was just too hopeful to see it." Marcus's smile faltered. Before he could respond, the event coordinator approached the table with a wireless microphone. "Mr. Whitfield, it's time for your speech." Marcus grabbed the microphone and stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over his champagne glass. "Finally," he muttered. He looked down at Amara. "Stay here. Try not to embarrass me more than you already have." He strode toward the center of the stage, Sophia gliding behind him like a shadow in red silk. Amara remained seated. She pulled out her phone under the table. One message. "Now?" She typed back, "Not yet. Let him dig his own grave first." The ballroom lights dimmed slightly as a spotlight hit Marcus Whitfield. He looked magnificent up there, tall, handsome, perfectly groomed, the image of American success. A self-made man who had built an empire from nothing. At least, that's what everyone believed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice booming through the speakers. "Welcome to the 10th anniversary of Whitfield Technologies." Applause erupted. 500 people clapping for a man they thought they knew. 10 years ago, I was nobody. I had nothing. I was working out of a garage with a laptop and a dream. More applause. And now? Marcus spread his arms wide. Now I'm standing in front of the most powerful people in New York, running a company worth $3 billion. The applause reached a crescendo. Marcus waited for it to die down, savoring the moment. "But tonight," he continued, his voice taking on a different tone, "tonight is about more than business. Tonight is about honesty, about authenticity, about surrounding yourself with people who elevate you, not drag you down." He paused. His eyes found Amara in the crowd. "So I have an announcement to make." The room went quiet. "Some of you know my wife, Amara." Murmurs, heads turning, phones coming out. "For 5 years I have tried. Lord knows I have tried. I have given this woman everything, a home, a name, a lifestyle she could never have afforded on her own." Amara felt 500 pairs of eyes on her. She kept her face neutral. "But I've realized something. Some people are meant for greatness, and some people," he looked directly at her, "some people are meant to be nothing." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Amara came to me with nothing. No family, no money, no connections. I took her in because I felt sorry for her. I gave her a chance. And how did she repay me? By being dead weight, by embarrassing me at events, by failing repeatedly to live up to the standard that a man in my position requires." Sophia stepped closer to Marcus, her hand finding his arm in a gesture of support that was clearly intended for the cameras. "So tonight," Marcus said, "in front of all of you, I'm announcing that I'm filing for divorce." The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Board members exchanged shocked glances. Marcus raised his hand for silence. "Now, I know what you're thinking. Marcus, isn't this harsh? Isn't this public? But I believe in transparency. I believe in honesty. And I believe that when you're cutting cancer from your life, you do it quickly and completely." He pointed directly at Amara. "This woman is a nobody. She has always been a nobody. And without me, she will go back to being a nobody. She signed a prenup. She gets nothing. She leaves with exactly what she came with, which is absolutely nothing." He turned to Sophia and kissed her, full on the lips, in front of 500 people and a dozen cameras. When he pulled back, he was grinning. "Now," he said into the microphone, "let's get this party started." The DJ took his cue and started the music. But nobody was dancing. Everyone was staring at Amara, waiting to see her cry, waiting to see her run, waiting for the humiliated wife to crumble. Amara stood up slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She picked up her phone and typed one word. Now. Somewhere in the back of the ballroom, near the service entrance, a door opened. Marcus was still basking in the glow of his cruelty when he noticed something strange. The music stopped. The lights near the main entrance shifted, and 12 men in black suits, earpieces glinting, walked into the ballroom in perfect formation. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered. Senator Crawford stood up, his face going pale. "Those are private security. Professional. Who are they with?" Before anyone could answer, the formation parted, and Solomon Morrison walked through. He was 63 years old, silver-haired, with a presence that made the room shrink around him. He wore a custom tuxedo, but he didn't need it to command attention. Power radiated from him like heat from a furnace. Anyone who followed finance news knew that face. Anyone who understood real wealth, old wealth, generational wealth, knew that name. Marcus didn't recognize him. "Who is that?" he hissed to Sophia. She was already Googling on her phone. Her face went white. "Oh my God," she whispered. Solomon Morrison walked past the tables of New York's elite as if they didn't exist. He walked past the bankers, the senators, the tech moguls. He walked directly to Amara. The entire room held its breath. Solomon stopped in front of his daughter. His eyes, the same deep brown as hers, were shining with emotion. "It's time to come home," he said softly. "My daughter!" The word exploded through the room. Daughter. Marcus's microphone slipped from his fingers and hit the stage with a deafening thump of feedback. Amara looked at her father. 5 years of hiding. 5 years of hoping. 5 years of watching the man she loved become the man she despised. It was over. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a small velvet box. She opened it, revealing a ring she hadn't worn in half a decade. A signet ring bearing the Morrison family crest, an eagle clutching a rose, the symbol of one of America's most powerful black dynasties. She slid it onto her finger. Then she turned to face her husband. "You called me a nobody, Marcus." Her voice carried across the silent ballroom. "Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Amara Grace Morrison, only daughter of Solomon Morrison, and the anonymous investor who funded your entire company through Zenith Trust 5 years ago." She took a step toward him. "Every dollar you have, every success you've claimed, every empire you built, it was my money, my inheritance, my gift to a man I thought loved me." Another step. "You wanted to divorce a nobody? Congratulations, Marcus. You just declared war on the woman who owns 51% of everything you think is yours." Marcus's face had gone from white to gray. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Sophia was already backing away, her red dress disappearing into the crowd as she calculated her escape. Solomon Morrison stepped forward, placing himself between his daughter and the man who had humiliated her. "Mr. Whitfield," Solomon said, his voice like thunder. "You seem surprised. Did you really think I would let my only child disappear into America without watching over her? I know everything. Every late night, every lie, every dollar you stole from her heart while calling yourself self-made." Marcus finally found his voice. "Sir, I didn't know. She never told me. If I had known who she was—" "If you had known," Amara interrupted, "you would have treated me like a trophy instead of a human being. That's exactly why I didn't tell you." She looked at him with something worse than hatred. Pity. "I gave you 5 years to prove you could love me for who I was. And you spent 5 years proving you only loved what you could take from me." She turned to her father. "I'm ready to go home, Papa." Solomon nodded. He signaled to his security team. But before they could move, Marcus lunged forward, grabbing Amara's arm. "You can't do this," he hissed. "You can't just walk away. We're married. I have rights." Solomon's cane came down hard on Marcus's wrist. The crack echoed through the ballroom. Marcus yelped and released Amara, clutching his hand. "Touch my daughter again," Solomon said calmly, "and you'll lose more than your company." The security team closed ranks around Amara and her father. As they walked toward the exit, Amara paused. She turned back one last time to look at the man she had married. Marcus Whitfield stood alone on the stage, surrounded by the shattered remains of his reputation. His mistress had fled. His board members were already on their phones, probably with lawyers. The cameras were still flashing, capturing every moment of his downfall. "Goodbye, Marcus," Amara said. "I hope the nothing you have left is enough to keep you warm at night." The heavy doors swung shut behind her, and Marcus Whitfield, the self-made king of New York, fell to his knees in front of 500 witnesses, finally understanding the true cost of cruelty. The video would go viral within the hour. By morning, his empire would begin to crumble. But Marcus didn't know any of that yet. All he knew in that moment was that he had made the worst mistake of his life, and there was no taking it back. The doors had barely closed behind Amara and her father when the ballroom erupted into chaos. Marcus remained on his knees for exactly 3 seconds before survival instinct kicked in. He scrambled to his feet, his eyes wild, scanning the room for Sophia. She was gone. "Sophia!" he shouted. No answer. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He yanked it out with trembling hands. A text from Sophia. "Don't contact me. I'm protecting myself. You're on your own." Marcus stared at the screen. His mistress, his partner, his future, gone in 60 seconds. "Mr. Whitfield." He spun around. Senator Crawford stood behind him, his face a mask of barely contained fury. "Senator, I can explain." "Explain?" Crawford's voice was ice. "You just publicly humiliated the daughter of Solomon Morrison. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?" "You called your wife worthless on a stage in front of 500 people. You announced your affair. You kissed your mistress in public." Crawford stepped closer, lowering his voice to a hiss. "I don't care if she was the daughter of a janitor. That was disgusting. But she's not the daughter of a janitor, is she? She's Morrison royalty. And you just made an enemy of the most powerful black family in American finance." Marcus grabbed Crawford's arm. "You have to help me. You have connections. You can talk to Morrison. Smooth things over. Crawford yanked his arm free. I'm not touching this, and neither is anyone else with half a brain. He turned and walked away without looking back. Marcus stood alone on the stage, surrounded by the whispers of 500 people who had witnessed his destruction. His phone buzzed again. This time it was his CFO, Daniel Park. Board emergency meeting called for 7 a.m. tomorrow. You need to be there. Marcus typed back, What's going on? The response came immediately. Morrison Capital just filed a formal complaint with the SEC. They're claiming breach of fiduciary duty and demanding an audit of all company finances. Marcus, what the hell did you do? Marcus's blood ran cold. The SEC. A formal complaint. An audit. If they dug into the company finances, they would find everything. The creative accounting, the inflated revenue reports, the offshore accounts he had used to hide bonuses from the board. He had always assumed he was untouchable. He had been wrong. Marcus pushed through the crowd toward the exit. People parted around him like he was contagious. No one would meet his eyes. The same people who had been toasting him an hour ago now looked at him like he was already dead. He burst through the main doors and found himself on the steps of the Grand Marquis, gasping for air. A black SUV idled at the curb. The back window rolled down. Amara's face appeared. Marcus stumbled forward. Amara, wait, please. What do you want, Marcus? I want to talk. Just talk. 5 minutes. Please. Amara studied him for a long moment. Her face was calm, unreadable. You have 2 minutes. Marcus rushed to the car window, his hands gripping the edge like a drowning man clutching a life preserver. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. I was stressed. I was drinking. I said things I didn't mean. You called me worthless. I didn't mean it. You announced our divorce in front of 500 people. I was angry. I was stupid. You kissed your mistress, on stage, while I was sitting 10 feet away. Marcus's mouth opened and closed. He had no defense for that one. Amara, please. I love you. I've always loved you. We can work through this. We can get counseling. I'll fire Sophia. I'll do whatever you want. Amara leaned slightly out of the window. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. Do you remember our first date, Marcus? The question caught him off guard. What? Our first date. That little coffee shop in Brooklyn. You ordered a black coffee because you couldn't afford anything else. I ordered the same thing, so you wouldn't feel embarrassed. Marcus felt something twist in his chest. I remember. You told me that night that you didn't care about money. You said all you wanted was someone who believed in you, someone who saw the real you. I meant it. No, you didn't. Amara's voice hardened. Because the real you was always this. The real you was always the man who would throw away anyone who couldn't help him climb higher. I just didn't want to see it. That's not true. Goodbye, Marcus. The window began to roll up. Marcus lunged forward, shoving his hand into the gap. Wait, how much? Amara paused. What? How much do you want? To make this go away? To drop the SEC complaint? To let me keep my company? Name your price. Silence. Then Amara laughed. It was the saddest sound Marcus had ever heard. You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about money. It was never about money. She pulled his hand away from the window with surprising strength. I wanted you to love me. Just me. And you couldn't do it. The window closed. The SUV pulled away from the curb, taking Amara Morrison out of his life forever. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, watching the taillights disappear into the Manhattan night. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking. Tech CEO Marcus Whitfield publicly humiliates wife, reveals affair at company gala. Wife revealed as daughter of billionaire Solomon Morrison. Underneath the headline was a video. The video. Already 600,000 views and climbing. Marcus clicked on the comments. He really called her worthless, and she owned his whole company? LMAOOO. The way her father walked in like a king. That's generational wealth power right there. Team Amara, destroy him, Queen. This man is finished. Finished. Marcus threw his phone at the ground. The screen shattered, but the nightmare was just beginning. The next morning came too fast. Marcus hadn't slept. He had spent the night in his office at Whitfield Tower, making calls that went unanswered, sending emails that bounced back, and watching the viral video rack up 30 million views. By dawn, the hashtag #worthlesswife was trending #1 worldwide. The hashtag Team Amara was #2. His hashtag Whitfield fraud was #3. At 6:45 a.m., Marcus walked into the executive conference room for the emergency board meeting. 12 faces stared back at him. None of them were friendly. Daniel Park sat at the far end of the table, avoiding eye contact. The other board members, people Marcus had hand-picked, people he had made rich, looked at him like he was a stranger. "Sit down, Marcus." The voice came from the head of the table. Marcus turned. His blood froze. Sitting in his chair, at the head of his table, was a woman he didn't recognize. She was sharp, elegant, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. She radiated the kind of calm authority that made powerful men nervous. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus demanded. "My name is Evelyn Cross. I'm General Counsel for Morrison Capital Partners. I'm here to oversee the transition." "Transition? What transition? This is my company." Evelyn smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Actually, Mr. Whitfield, it isn't. As of 30 minutes ago, Morrison Capital Partners has exercised its rights under the character clause of your original funding agreement with Zenith Trust." Marcus felt the room spin. "Character clause? What are you talking about?" Evelyn opened a leather folder and slid a document across the table. 5 years ago, when you received your initial investment of $5 million from Zenith Trust, you signed a comprehensive lending agreement. Page 47, paragraph 12, subclause C. In the event of gross public misconduct causing material reputational damage to the company or its stakeholders, controlling interest in all company shares reverts to the primary investor. Marcus grabbed the document, his eyes scanning frantically. There it was, his signature at the bottom of the page. He remembered signing this. He remembered not reading it. He had been so desperate for the money, so certain that his charm and genius would carry him through, that he had signed whatever they put in front of him. "This is illegal," Marcus sputtered. "You can't just take my company because of a speech at a party." "It's not just the speech, Mr. Whitfield." Evelyn pulled out another folder. "It's the systematic pattern of misconduct, the affair with a subordinate, the public humiliation of a spouse, the harassment complaints that were buried, the creative accounting that the SEC is now investigating." She laid out document after document, each one a nail in his coffin. "You've been operating this company like your personal piggy bank. Mrs. Morrison, your wife, was the only thing protecting you. Her investment gave you legitimacy. Her silence gave you cover. And last night, you destroyed both." Marcus looked around the table desperately. Daniel, tell them. We built this company together. You can't let them do this." Daniel Park finally met his eyes. There was no friendship there, no loyalty, just cold calculation. I'm sorry, Marcus, but I have a family. I have a career. I'm not going down with you. You son of a... Mr. Whitfield. Evelyn's voice cut through his rage. The board has already voted. You are hereby removed as CEO of Whitfield Technologies, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. You have 30 minutes to collect your personal belongings. You can't do this to me. I built this company. I am this company. You built nothing. Evelyn stood up, gathering her folders. Amara Morrison built this company, with her money, her faith, her patience. All you did was take credit for her investment while treating her like garbage. She walked past him toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Mr. Whitfield? Mrs. Morrison asked me to give you a message. Marcus looked up, a desperate hope flickering in his eyes. Maybe Amara had changed her mind. Maybe she still had feelings for him. Maybe... She said to tell you that you were right about one thing. She did come to you with nothing. No money that you knew about. No family that you bothered to meet. No connections that you valued. Evelyn's smile turned razor sharp. But at least she had her dignity. You can't even say that anymore. She walked out. The board members filed out behind her, not one of them offering Marcus a word of support or a backward glance. Marcus sat alone in the conference room that used to be his, staring at the signature on a contract he should have read, wondering how everything had gone so wrong, so fast. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Turn on channel 4. Marcus grabbed the remote and turned on the TV mounted in the corner. A news anchor was speaking, her face serious. Breaking news this morning. Socialite and former Whitfield Technologies VP, Sophia Chen, has given an exclusive interview to our network, claiming she was a victim of CEO Marcus Whitfield's manipulation and abuse. The screen cut to Sophia, artfully made up, tears streaming down her perfect face. He told me his marriage was over. He told me his wife was mentally unstable and that they were separated. I never would have gotten involved if I had known the truth. I'm a victim here too. Marcus's jaw dropped. She was throwing him under the bus. The woman he had given everything to, the woman he had chosen over his wife, was positioning herself as a victim to save her own reputation. The anchor continued. Chen claims she has evidence of workplace harassment and plans to pursue legal action against Whitfield personally. Marcus turned off the TV. He sat in silence for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a broken sound, half sob and half hysteria, echoing off the walls of the conference room where he had once felt like a god. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. Mr. Whitfield, it's time to go. They escorted him to his office, where a cardboard box sat waiting on his desk. They watched as he packed a few personal items. A photo of his parents. A paperweight he had bought himself when he closed his first major deal. A coffee mug that said, "World's Best Boss," that some assistant had given him as a joke. Nothing else belonged to him. The furniture, the art, the view of Manhattan, all of it had been paid for with Amara's money. The guards walked him to the elevator. The doors opened on the lobby. A crowd had gathered outside the building. Reporters, photographers, protesters holding signs that said things like, "Karma is a Morrison," and "Worthless husband." Marcus stepped out of the elevator and walked toward the front doors. Every employee in the lobby stopped what they were doing to watch. No one said goodbye. No one wished him well. No one pretended to respect him anymore. He pushed through the glass doors and into the flashbulbs. "Mr. Whitfield, do you have a comment on the SEC investigation?" "Marcus, is it true your wife funded your entire company? How does it feel to lose everything in one night?" Marcus pushed through the crowd, shielding his face with his cardboard box, trying to reach the curb. A taxi was waiting. He dove inside and slammed the door. "Where to?" the driver asked. Marcus opened his mouth to give his address. Then he stopped. His penthouse. The one in the building with the doorman who had always been so respectful. The one with the view of Central Park that he had bragged about at parties. That penthouse had been purchased by Zenith Trust. He had no home. "Sir, where to?" Marcus gave the driver the address of a hotel. A decent one, not too expensive. He still had his credit cards. He still had his personal accounts. At least, he thought he did. 20 minutes later, Marcus stood at the front desk of the hotel. His card declined for the third time. "I'm sorry, sir. The card isn't going through." "Do you have another form of payment?" Marcus tried his backup card. Declined. His personal debit card. Declined. His corporate card, which he wasn't even supposed to have anymore. Declined. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. There are other guests waiting." Marcus stumbled away from the desk, his mind reeling. They had frozen everything. His accounts, his cards, his entire financial existence. He pulled out his phone and called his bank. "Thank you for calling First National. For English, press 1. He pressed 1. "Your call is important to us. Please hold for the next available representative." Elevator music. 10 minutes. 20 minutes. Finally, a human voice. "First National, how can I help you?" "Yes, my accounts have been frozen. There's been some kind of mistake. My name is Marcus Whitfield." A pause. "Please hold, Mr. Whitfield." More elevator music. Another 10 minutes. A new voice came on the line. Deeper. More authoritative. "Mr. Whitfield, this is the Fraud Prevention Department. We've flagged your accounts due to an ongoing investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission. All assets have been frozen pending the outcome of that investigation." "You can't do that. That's my money." "Sir, we're required by law to comply with SEC directives. You'll need to take this up with your attorney." The line went dead. Marcus stood on the sidewalk outside the hotel, holding a cardboard box full of worthless memories. With no money, no home, no company, and no one left to call. His phone buzzed one more time. A text from Amara. "You asked how much it would take to make this go away. Here's my answer. There isn't enough money in the world to buy back what you threw away. Goodbye, Marcus." He stared at the message for a long time. Then he started walking. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he couldn't stand still. The streets of Manhattan stretched out before him. The same streets he had conquered. The same city he had claimed as his kingdom. Now he was just another man with a cardboard box, invisible to the crowds rushing past. His phone rang. He didn't recognize the number, but he answered anyway. "Marcus Whitfield?" "Yes?" "This is Patricia Whitfield, your mother." Marcus stopped walking. He hadn't spoken to his mother in 2 years, not since he had told her she wasn't sophisticated enough to attend his company events. Not since he had sent a check instead of visiting for Christmas. Not since he had cut her out of his life because she reminded him of where he came from. "Mom? I saw the news." Her voice was tired, disappointed, but still, somehow, concerned. "I saw what you did to that girl." "Mom, I can explain. I raised you better than that, Marcus. I worked 2 jobs to put food on the table and clothes on your back. I taught you to respect women. I taught you that character matters more than money." Her voice cracked. "What happened to you?" Marcus felt something break inside him. Something that had been holding together through sheer force of will. "I don't know, Mom. I don't know." "That girl loved you. Anyone could see it. And you threw her away like she was nothing." "I know." "And now what? Now you have nothing. No wife, no job, no money, and probably no friends, Because men like you don't have friends, Marcus. You have people who are useful to you. And the moment you stop being useful to them, they disappear. Mom, please, I'm not calling to rescue you. I'm calling to tell you that I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that my son grew up to be the kind of man who treats people like they're disposable. She took a shaky breath. But I'm also calling because you're still my son. And despite everything, I still love you. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't bother to wipe them away.
What do I do, Mom? I have nothing. I have no one.
A long pause. You rebuild. Not your company, not your fortune. Yourself. You figure out where you went wrong. You learn to be a decent human being. And you pray that God gives you another chance to make things right. I don't know if I can. Well, you'd better try, because this version of Marcus Whitfield, the one I saw in that video, he's not my son. My son is still in there somewhere. Find him. The line went dead. Marcus lowered the phone. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the skyscrapers in shades of gold and orange. 12 hours ago, he had owned this city. Now he was homeless, penniless, and utterly alone. But for the first time since the gala, he felt something other than fear and anger. He felt the faint, distant stirring of shame. And shame, unlike pride, was the beginning of redemption. If he was brave enough to face it, Marcus picked up his cardboard box and kept walking. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew, with terrible certainty, that this was only the beginning of his fall. 3 weeks after the gala, Marcus Whitfield stood in line at a pawn shop on the Lower East Side, clutching the only thing of value he had left, his Rolex. The watch had been a gift to himself when Whitfield Technologies hit its first $100 million in revenue. He had paid $42,000 for it. He had worn it to every important meeting, every investor pitch, every moment of triumph. Now he was about to sell it for grocery money. Next, Marcus stepped up to the counter. The man behind the bulletproof glass looked him up and down, taking in the wrinkled suit, the 3-day stubble, the desperate eyes. What you got? Marcus slid the Rolex through the slot. The pawnbroker examined it, turning it over, checking the serial number. It's real, Marcus said. 42,000 retail. I have the papers somewhere. 800.
800? That's robbery.
The pawnbroker shrugged. Market's flooded with luxury watches right now. A lot of guys like you coming in lately. He looked Marcus dead in the eyes. Take it or leave it. Marcus thought about walking out. He thought about his pride. He thought about the man he used to be. Then he thought about the fact that he hadn't eaten in 2 days. Fine, 800. The pawnbroker counted out the bills. Marcus shoved them in his pocket and walked out without looking back. $800. That was what his life had been reduced to. $800 and a cardboard box of memories sitting in a storage locker he could barely afford. His phone buzzed. He checked it out of habit, even though almost no one contacted him anymore. A news alert. Morrison Capital Partners announces major acquisition. Whitfield Technologies to be restructured under new leadership. Marcus clicked on the article. There was a photo of Amara standing at a podium, flanked by her father and a team of executives. She was wearing a cream-colored suit, her hair natural and beautiful, her posture confident and powerful. The caption read, Amara Morrison, newly appointed chairwoman of Morrison Whitfield Holdings, announces plans to transform the struggling tech company into a leader in sustainable innovation. She had taken his company. No, Marcus corrected himself. She had taken back her company. The one she had paid for. The one he had built on the foundation of her money and her faith. And now she was going to turn it into something better than he ever could. He should have felt rage. He should have felt the burning desire for revenge that had fueled him through the darkest nights of the past 3 weeks. Instead, he felt nothing. Just a hollow emptiness where his ambition used to be. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. You have 1 hour to vacate the storage unit. Payment declined. Contents will be disposed of. Marcus ran. The storage facility was 20 blocks away. He ran the entire distance, his lungs burning, his legs screaming in protest. He hadn't exercised in years. His body had gone soft from expensive dinners and chauffeured cars. He burst through the doors of the facility, gasping for breath. The unit, 347. I need to get my things. The attendant looked at him with bored indifference. Payment declined. Company policy. You get 30 minutes to clear it out or it goes in the dumpster. Marcus sprinted down the hall, fumbled with the lock, and threw open the door to his unit. Everything he owned was in this 10 by 10 space. His clothes, his books, his awards, the cardboard box from his office. And one other thing. A small, fireproof safe containing the only documents that mattered. His passport, his birth certificate, and the prenuptial agreement that Amara had signed 5 years ago. The prenup. Marcus grabbed the safe and tore it open. There it was, 37 pages of legal language designed to protect his assets in case of divorce. He had made Amara sign it before the wedding. He remembered how she had looked at him when he presented it. Not angry, not offended, just sad. "Don't you trust me?" she had asked. "It's not about trust," he had said. "It's about business." She had signed it anyway. Now Marcus flipped through the pages, searching for something, anything that could help him. And then he found it. Page 23. A clause he had forgotten about. In the event of divorce initiated by the husband, all joint assets acquired during the marriage shall be subject to equal division, regardless of original source of funds, unless the wife can prove fraudulent concealment of assets. Marcus read it again, and again, and again. He had forgotten about this clause. His lawyer had added it to make the prenup seem balanced, to make Amara more likely to sign. But now it meant something different. Amara had initiated the divorce. She had filed the papers. She had made the first move. Which meant, technically, this clause didn't apply. But what if Marcus could prove that she had defrauded him? What if he could argue that her concealment of her true identity constituted fraudulent behavior? What if he could sue her? Marcus's heart began to race. It was a long shot. A desperate, pathetic, probably doomed long shot. But it was something. A thread. A possibility. He needed a lawyer. A good one. The problem was, every good lawyer in New York had already been contacted by Morrison Capital. They wouldn't touch Marcus with a 10-foot pole. He needed someone outside the system, someone who didn't care about reputation, someone hungry. Marcus pulled out his phone and started searching. 2 hours later, he was sitting in a cramped office above a Chinese restaurant in Queens, across from a man named Vincent DeLuca. DeLuca was in his 60s, with a gray ponytail and a suit that had been fashionable in 1987. His office smelled like cigarettes and regret. He was the kind of lawyer who advertised on bus benches, but he was the only one who had agreed to meet with Marcus. "So let me get this straight," DeLuca said, leaning back in his chair. "You want to sue your ex-wife for fraud because she didn't tell you her father was a billionaire? She concealed her identity. She let me believe she was poor. She manipulated me into marriage under false pretenses." DeLuca laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "Kid, have you heard yourself? She secretly funded your company. She gave you millions of dollars. She made you rich. And you want to sue her for not telling you she was doing it? She lied to me. She didn't lie. She just didn't volunteer information. DeLuca shook his head. Look, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've seen a lot of desperate men try to use the courts to get revenge on women who left them. It never works. It makes them look pathetic and bitter, which, no offense, is exactly how you look right now. Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. I lost everything. My company, my home, my reputation. She orchestrated it all. She set me up. Did she make you call her worthless in front of 500 people? Marcus went silent. Did she force you to kiss your mistress on stage? Still silent. Did she hold a gun to your head and make you treat her like garbage for 5 years? Marcus looked away. DeLuca sighed. I'll tell you what I see. I see a woman who loved a man and wanted to be loved back. She gave him everything, and he gave her nothing but pain. She waited and waited and waited for him to change. And when she finally realized he never would, she protected herself. She destroyed me. No, kid.
You destroyed yourself. She just stopped cleaning up your mess. Marcus stood up abruptly.
This was a mistake. I'll find another lawyer.
Good luck with that.
DeLuca didn't bother to stand.
But let me give you some free advice. The best thing you can do right now is disappear. Get a job somewhere nobody knows you. Start over. Build a life based on something other than money and ego. Because right now, you're a cautionary tale. And if you keep fighting, if you keep making noise, you're going to become a joke. Marcus stormed out of the office. He stood on the sidewalk, breathing hard, his fists clenched. DeLuca was wrong. Everyone was wrong. This wasn't over. He would find a way to come back. He would find a way to make Amara pay. His phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. We need to talk. Meet me at the Starbucks on 34th Street in 1 hour. Come alone. This is Sophia. Marcus stared at the message. Sophia. The woman who had thrown him under the bus. The woman who had called herself a victim on national television. The woman who had abandoned him the moment things got hard. What could she possibly want? Against his better judgment, he went. Sophia was already there when he arrived. She was sitting in the back corner, wearing sunglasses even though they were indoors. A baseball cap pulled low over her blonde hair. She looked nothing like the confident, glamorous woman who had clung to his arm at the gala. She looked hunted. You came, she said. What do you want, Sophia? Sit down, please. Marcus sat, keeping his distance. I need money, Sophia said flatly. Marcus laughed bitterly. You came to me for money? I'm sleeping on a friend's couch. I'm eating ramen for every meal. I don't have money. I know, but you're going to have money when you sue Amara. Marcus's eyes narrowed. How do you know about that? I know everything, Marcus. I know you've been talking to lawyers. I know you're looking for a way back in. She leaned forward. And I have something that can help you. What? Sophia reached into her purse and pulled out a USB drive. 3 months ago, I was going through some files on the company's server, looking for information I could use if things ever went south between us. She slid the drive across the table. I found records, financial records, proof that Amara was funneling money into Whitfield Technologies through a series of shell companies. Proof that she knew exactly what she was doing when she invested in you. Marcus grabbed the drive. This could prove fraud. This could prove she manipulated the entire situation. Exactly. Why are you giving this to me? Sophia's mask slipped. For a moment, Marcus saw something real in her eyes. Something ugly. Something desperate. Because Morrison Capital didn't just go after you, Marcus. They went after me, too. Her voice trembled. "They got me blacklisted from every company in the city. No one will hire me.
No one will touch me. I can't get a job anywhere. I'm living in a studio apartment in the Bronx, eating cereal for dinner. So this is about revenge. This is about survival." Sophia's eyes blazed. "I did everything right. I played the game perfectly, and they still destroyed me. Just because I happened to be standing next to you when you imploded." Marcus looked at the USB drive in his hand. "If I use this, if I sue Amara, it could take years. I might still lose, but you might win. And if you win, you take back control of the company. You get your life back." Sophia's voice dropped to a whisper. "And so do I." Marcus thought about it. The smart move was to walk away, to take DeLuca's advice and disappear, to start over somewhere nobody knew his name. But the smart move had never been Marcus's style. "All right," he said. "Let's do it." Sophia smiled. It was not a nice smile. "There's one more thing," she said. "Something I didn't put on the drive. Something I'm only going to tell you once." "What?" Sophia leaned in close. "Amara is pregnant." Marcus felt the world tilt. "What?" "Pregnant. About 13 weeks along. The timing suggests it's yours." Sophia's smile widened. "If you sue her, if you fight her, you're not just fighting for your company. You're fighting for your child." Marcus sat back in his chair, his mind racing. A child. His child. The woman he had called worthless was carrying his baby. And she was going to raise that child in the Morrison Empire, surrounded by wealth and power, never knowing that Marcus Whitfield existed. Unless he fought. Unless he won. "I need to see her," Marcus said. "She's leaving tomorrow. Private flight to Atlanta. Morrison family compound." Sophia pulled out her phone. "Her car leaves for Teterboro at 5 p.m. I can get you the route." "How do you know all this?" "I still have friends in the company. People who are just as angry as I am." Sophia stood up. "Use that drive. Find a good lawyer. And when you win, remember who helped you." She walked out of the Starbucks without looking back. Marcus sat alone, staring at the USB drive in his hand. A child. A lawsuit. A chance at redemption. Or maybe just a chance to cause more pain. He didn't know which one he wanted more. The next afternoon, Marcus stood at the entrance to Teterboro Airport, watching Amara's black SUV pull up to the private terminal. Security was everywhere. Men in suits with earpieces, cameras, barriers. But Marcus didn't care. He pushed past the first security checkpoint, ignoring the shouts behind him. "Amara! Amara!" 2 guards tackled him. His face hit the concrete. He tasted blood. But he had been loud enough. The SUV stopped. The door opened. Amara stepped out. She looked at Marcus, pinned to the ground by security, his suit torn, blood trickling from a cut on his lip. "Let him up," she said quietly. "Ma'am, I said, let him up." The guards released Marcus. He scrambled to his feet, breathing hard. "Amara, please, 5 minutes." She studied him for a long moment. 2 minutes. She walked toward the fence that separated them. Marcus stumbled forward, gripping the chain link like it was the only thing holding him upright. "I know about the baby," he said. Amara's expression didn't change. "How?" "It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you're carrying my child, my son or daughter, and you were going to leave without telling me?" "I was going to tell you, eventually." "When? When the kid turned 18? "When I could trust you not to use them as a weapon." The words hit Marcus like a slap. "I would never." "You would, and we both know it." Amara's voice was tired but firm. "The Marcus I met 7 years ago? That man would have been a good father. Kind, present, loving.
But that man is gone. The person standing in front of me now would use a child to manipulate, to control, to hurt.
That's not true, isn't it? Amara reached into her bag. She pulled out a photograph, a sonogram. This is your child, Marcus, and I've spent the last 3 weeks trying to decide whether to tell you. She passed the photo through the fence. Marcus took it with trembling hands. The image was grainy, black and white, but he could see it. A tiny form, a heartbeat, captured in pixels. I wanted to tell you, Amara continued. I wanted to believe you could change. But then I saw you on the news, talking to lawyers, planning to sue me. I saw you meeting with Sophia yesterday. Marcus looked up sharply. You knew? I know everything, Marcus, just like my father does. Amara's voice hardened. You're planning to use financial records to claim I defrauded you. You're planning to fight for custody of a child you didn't know existed until yesterday. You're planning to drag this out for years, making everyone miserable. Because you can't stand the idea of someone else winning. I just want to be part of my child's life. No, you want to be in control. There's a difference. Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes. He hadn't cried since the night everything fell apart. He had thought he was past that. But standing here, holding a picture of his unborn child, facing the woman he had destroyed, something broke inside him. Amara, I'm sorry. The words came out ragged, raw. I'm sorry for what I said at the gala. I'm sorry for Sophia. I'm sorry for every cold word, every missed dinner, every time I made you feel invisible. I was selfish. I was cruel. I was so focused on climbing that I forgot you were the foundation holding me up. Amara's expression didn't soften. You said those same words in the prenup counseling session. You said them after the first time I caught you texting Sophia. You said them when I told you I was thinking about leaving. She shook her head. Words mean nothing, Marcus. They never have. Then let me prove it. Let me prove I can change. How? By suing me? By dragging our child through a custody battle? By using Sophia's stolen files to destroy my family? I won't do any of that, I promise. Your promises are worthless. Marcus flinched. Amara reached through the fence and took the sonogram back. I'm going to Atlanta, Marcus. I'm going to raise this child in a home filled with love, surrounded by people who know how to treat others with dignity. And when they're old enough, when they ask about their father, I'm going to tell them the truth. What truth? Amara looked at him. For the first time, he saw tears in her eyes. That he was a man who got lost, who let ambition poison his soul, who loved success more than he loved people. She wiped her eyes quickly. But also that somewhere, deep down, there might have been a good man. A man who just never learned how to let that goodness win. Amara. Goodbye, Marcus. She turned and walked back toward the SUV. Wait. Marcus pressed against the fence. Please, wait. Amara paused at the car door. The USB drive, Marcus said. The financial records. I'm not going to use them. I'm going to destroy them. Amara looked back at him. I don't want to fight you anymore, Marcus continued. I don't want to spend the next 5 years in court. I don't want to be the villain in my child's story. Then what do you want? Marcus swallowed hard. I want a chance. Not to be your husband again. I know that's over. But a chance to be something. A better man. A distant uncle. A cautionary tale you tell at Thanksgiving. His voice cracked. Anything but nothing. Amara studied him for a long moment. Prove it. How? Figure it out. She opened the car door.
That's what changed people do, Marcus. They figure it out. She got into the SUV. The door closed. The engine started. And Marcus watched as the car drove away, carrying his wife and his unborn child toward a future that didn't include him. He stood at the fence for a long time, the USB drive heavy in his pocket. Then, slowly, he pulled it out. He looked at it. All that information, all that leverage, all that potential for destruction. He walked to the nearest trash can. He dropped it in. And for the first time in 5 years, Marcus Whitfield made a choice that wasn't about winning. He just didn't know if it was too late to matter. 5 years later, the alarm clock screamed at 4:30 a.m. Marcus Whitfield rolled out of a twin bed in a cramped studio apartment in Queens and slapped the alarm into silence. His back ached. His knees popped when he stood. He was 42 years old, but he felt 60. He shuffled to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The man staring back was unrecognizable from the polished CEO who had once graced magazine covers. His hair was thinning, streaked with gray. His jawline was hidden beneath a scraggly beard he couldn't afford to maintain. His eyes, once sharp and predatory, were tired and hollow, but they were also somehow clearer than they had been in years. Marcus brushed his teeth, put on his uniform, a gray jumpsuit with a name tag that read Marcus W., and headed out into the pre-dawn darkness. He worked at a warehouse in Long Island City, night shift, loading boxes onto trucks, 12 hours a day, 4 days a week, minimum wage plus overtime. It was honest work, brutal work, the kind of work he had spent his entire life looking down on. Now, it was all he had. He clocked in at 5 a.m. and spent the next 6 hours lifting, carrying, stacking. The work was monotonous, but Marcus had learned to find peace in monotony. His mind could wander while his body moved. Usually, it wandered to Amara, and to the child he had never met. He knew the basics. He had followed the news obsessively in the first year, then less frequently as the pain became manageable. He knew she had given birth to a boy. He knew she had named him Julian. He knew Julian was being raised in the Morrison compound in Atlanta, surrounded by wealth and family and love. He knew his son would never know his name. Marcus had accepted that. It had taken years of therapy, years of working through anger and grief and shame, but he had accepted it. He had no right to that child. He had given up that right the moment he called his wife worthless in front of 500 people. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some bridges, once burned, stay burned forever. At 11 a.m., Marcus clocked out and headed to the break room. He grabbed his lunch from the refrigerator, a ham sandwich he had made himself, and sat alone at a table in the corner. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. "Call me when you get a chance. Not urgent, just want to hear your voice." Marcus smiled slightly. His relationship with his mother had been the one good thing to emerge from the wreckage of his life. They talked every week now. She had forgiven him, slowly, over years of consistent effort. She was the only person who still believed he could be redeemed. His phone buzzed again. This time, the notification made his blood freeze. A news alert. Breaking. Morrison Foundation announces major expansion. Chairwoman Amara Morrison to speak at annual gala in New York City. Marcus stared at the screen. New York. Amara was coming to New York. He hadn't seen her since that day at the airport, 5 years ago. She had told him to prove he could change, and then she had flown out of his life forever. He had tried to prove it. He had destroyed the USB drive. He had dropped the lawsuit. He had taken menial jobs, paid his debts, rebuilt his life brick by brick. But he had never contacted her. He had been too afraid, too ashamed. And now she was coming back. For the rest of his shift, Marcus couldn't focus. He dropped boxes. He mislabeled shipments.
His supervisor, a heavy-set woman named Rosa, who had become something like a friend over the past 3 years, pulled him aside.
"What's wrong with you today? You look like you've seen a ghost."
"My ex-wife is coming to the city." Rosa raised an eyebrow.
"The rich one? The one from the news?"
Marcus nodded.
"You gonna try to see her?"
"I don't know." Rosa studied him for a long moment.
"You've changed a lot since you started here, Marcus. I remember when you showed up, all broken and angry, thinking you were too good for this place. Now look at you. You're one of my best workers. You help the new guys. You never complain."
"That's not saying much."
"It's saying everything." Rosa put a hand on his shoulder. "Whatever happened between you two, whatever you did, you've spent 5 years trying to be better. Maybe it's time to let her see that."
"What if she doesn't want to see me?"
"Then at least you'll know." Rosa shrugged.
"But living in limbo? That's no way to spend the rest of your life." Marcus thought about it all night. He thought about it on the subway ride home. He thought about it while he microwaved his dinner. He thought about it until he couldn't think anymore. Then he made a decision. The Morrison Foundation Gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Marcus couldn't afford a ticket. He couldn't even afford a decent suit. But he found his way to the Met anyway. Standing across the street, with a crowd of onlookers and paparazzi, watching the parade of limousines and town cars deliver New York's elite to the entrance. He felt ridiculous. A middle-aged man in a cheap jacket, standing in the cold, hoping for a glimpse of a woman who probably didn't remember he existed. But he couldn't make himself leave. At 8 p.m., a black SUV pulled up. The door opened, and there she was, Amara Morrison. She was more beautiful than he remembered, more confident, more radiant. She wore a deep purple gown that seemed to shimmer in the camera flashes, her natural hair styled in an elegant updo. Diamonds sparkled at her ears and throat. But what struck Marcus most was her smile. It was real, genuine, the smile of a woman who had found peace. She waved to the crowd, posed for a few photos, and began walking toward the entrance. Marcus didn't know what possessed him. "Amara!" His voice cut through the noise. She stopped. Their eyes met across the crowd. For a moment, Marcus thought she would ignore him, pretend she hadn't heard, keep walking into her glittering life. Instead, she said something to the security guard beside her. The guard nodded, and Amara Morrison walked toward the barricade where Marcus was standing. The crowd parted around her. The paparazzi went wild. Flashes exploded everywhere. But Amara didn't seem to notice. Her eyes were fixed on Marcus. She stopped 2 feet away from him. "Marcus?" "Amara." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Amara said, "You look different." "I am different." "Are you?" "I've spent 5 years trying to be." Amara studied him. Her expression was unreadable. "I know," she said finally. Marcus blinked. "You know?" "My father has kept tabs on you. He wanted to make sure you weren't planning anything problematic." A faint smile crossed her lips. "Imagine his surprise when he discovered you were working in a warehouse, living in a studio apartment, and volunteering at a homeless shelter on weekends." Marcus felt his face flush. "I didn't know anyone was watching." "That's the point. People show who they really are when they think no one is watching." "And what do you think I am?" Amara was quiet for a moment. "I think you're a man who made terrible mistakes,
who hurt people who loved him, who let ambition poison his soul.
She paused.
But I also think you're a man who has spent 5 years trying to understand why.
And that's more than most people ever do. Marcus felt tears threatening. He forced them back. I'm sorry, Amara. I know I've said it before. I know words don't mean anything. But I am sorry. For everything.
I know you are.
Can you ever forgive me? Amara looked at him for a long time.
I forgave you 2 years ago, Marcus. Holding on to anger was eating me alive. I had to let it go.
Then why?
Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. It doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen.
Her voice softened.
It just means I don't carry you around like a weight anymore. I let you go.
Marcus nodded slowly. He understood.
There's something else I need to tell you, Amara said. Something I should have told you a long time ago.
Marcus's heart began to race.
Julian asks about you.
The words hit him like a physical blow.
He asks about his father, Amara continued. Where he is, what he's like, why he's not around.
What do you tell him? I told him the truth, that his father made some bad choices, that he hurt people, but that somewhere out there, he's trying to be better. Marcus's vision blurred. He couldn't stop the tears this time.
Does he hate me?
He's 4 years old, Marcus. He doesn't hate anyone. Amara's voice cracked slightly.
He just wants to understand. Can I meet him?
The question hung in the air between them. Amara was silent for what felt like an eternity.
I don't know, she said finally. I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes either. Julian's stability, his happiness, that's my priority. If meeting you would help him, then maybe. If it would hurt him, then absolutely not. How do I prove it would help? You keep doing what you're doing. You keep being better. You keep showing up, not for cameras or attention, but because it's who you want to be.
Amara reached into her purse and pulled out a small card. This is my assistant's direct line. If you want to stay in touch, if you want to be considered for a relationship with Julian someday, call her. We'll start slow. Letters. Maybe video calls. Baby steps. Marcus took the card with trembling hands. Thank you, Amara. I don't deserve this.
No, you don't.
Amara's voice was firm, but not cruel. But Julian might deserve a father who has learned from his mistakes. That's who I'm giving this chance to. Not you. Him. Marcus nodded. I understand. Amara turned to go back to the gala. Then she paused. There's one more thing. She reached into her purse again and pulled out a small photograph. It was Julian. He was 4 years old, with dark curly hair and bright brown eyes, and a smile that lit up his entire face. And Marcus's eyes, the same blue eyes that had once been so cold and calculating, were now staring back at him from his son's innocent face.
He has your eyes, Amara said softly. I see you in him every day. The good parts.
The parts that made me fall in love with you in that coffee shop all those years ago. Marcus couldn't speak. He just stared at the photograph, memorizing every detail.
Keep it, Amara said.
Let it remind you of what you're working toward. She walked back toward the gala entrance. At the door, she turned one last time.
Goodbye, Marcus. And good luck.
Then she disappeared inside. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, holding a photograph of his son, tears streaming down his face. He had lost everything, but maybe, just maybe, he had found something worth more. A reason to keep going. A reason to keep becoming someone worthy of that little boy's love. He walked home that night. It took 2 hours. His feet ached and his back hurt, and the cold wind cut through his cheap jacket. But Marcus Whitfield didn't mind.
For the first time in 5 years, he felt something that had been missing from his life. Hope. The months that followed were the hardest of Marcus's life. He wrote letters to Julian every week. Simple letters, telling him about the weather, about the birds he saw in the park, about the books he was reading. Nothing heavy, nothing complicated, just a man trying to build a connection with a child he had never held. At first, there was no response. Then, after 3 months, a package arrived. Inside was a crayon drawing of a house with 2 stick figures, a big one and a little one. The big one was labeled Daddy. The little one was labeled Me. Marcus cried for an hour. He framed the drawing and hung it above his bed. He kept writing. More drawings came back. More letters. Eventually, video calls. The first time Marcus saw Julian's face on screen, heard his voice say, "Hi, Daddy," he thought his heart would stop. "Hi, buddy," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "Mommy says you live far away." "I do, but I'm always thinking about you." "Do you have a dog?" Marcus laughed through his tears. "No, I don't have a dog." "I want a dog. Mommy says maybe when I'm older." "That sounds nice." "Daddy?" "Yes?" "Why didn't you come before?" Marcus felt the question cut through him. He looked at Amara, who was sitting just off camera, watching. She nodded slightly. "I wasn't ready before," Marcus said carefully. "I had to learn how to be a good daddy first. I made a lot of mistakes, and I had to fix them." "What kind of mistakes?" "I was mean to people I loved. I thought money was more important than being kind. I was wrong." Julian was quiet for a moment. "Are you fixed now?" Marcus swallowed hard. "I'm trying to be, buddy. Every day I'm trying." "Okay." Julian smiled. It was Amara's smile. "I have to go now. Grandpa is taking me to get ice cream." "Okay. I love you, Julian." "Love you too, Daddy." The screen went dark. Marcus sat in his empty apartment, staring at the blank screen, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly. Not yet. But peace. The peace of a man who was finally on the right path, even if the destination was still far away. A year later, Marcus got a call from Amara's assistant. "Mrs. Morrison would like to invite you to Julian's 5th birthday party in Atlanta, if you're available." Marcus dropped the phone. He picked it up with shaking hands. "I'm available. I'm definitely available." "The party is in 2 weeks. Mrs. Morrison will cover your travel expenses." "No, thank you, but no. I'll pay my own way." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Mr. Whitfield, a plane ticket to Atlanta is—" "I know what it costs. I've been saving." Marcus's voice was firm. "I'm not going to meet my son for the first time with someone else's money in my pocket. That part of my life is over." Another pause. "I'll let Mrs. Morrison know. She'll be impressed." Marcus hung up and immediately started planning. He picked up extra shifts at the warehouse. He sold the few possessions he had that were worth anything. He skipped meals when necessary. 2 weeks later, he boarded a plane to Atlanta with exactly enough money for the round trip and a birthday present. A toy airplane. The kind Julian had mentioned wanting in one of their video calls. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't impressive. But Marcus had earned every penny himself, and somehow that made it worth more than all the luxury gifts he had bought in his previous life combined. The Morrison compound was even more impressive than Marcus had imagined, but he didn't let it intimidate him. He walked up to the front door, rang the bell, and waited. The door opened. Solomon Morrison stood there. The 2 men who had stood on opposite sides of a ballroom 5 years ago
now faced each other again. "Mr. Whitfield," Solomon said. "Mr. Morrison, you actually came." "I actually came." Solomon studied him for a long moment. His eyes were sharp, assessing. The eyes of a man who had built an empire by reading people. "My daughter believes you've changed. She believes you deserve a chance." "What do you believe?" "I believe that people rarely change, that they just get better at hiding who they really are." "Then why am I here?" Solomon stepped aside, allowing Marcus to enter. "Because my daughter is usually right about people, and because my grandson asked to meet his father." His voice hardened. "But understand this, Mr. Whitfield. If you hurt that boy, if you disappoint him, if you give me any reason to think you're using him, I will destroy whatever is left of your life. And this time, I won't be gentle." "I understand." "Do you?" "I understand that I have no power here, no leverage, no cards to play. All I have is the chance to be better than I was, and I'm going to take it." Solomon's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. "The party is in the backyard. Julian is waiting." Marcus walked through the Morrison mansion, past artwork that cost more than he would earn in a lifetime, past rooms filled with luxury he had once craved. None of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was the little boy standing in the backyard, holding a balloon, looking toward the house with wide, hopeful eyes. Marcus stepped through the back door. Julian saw him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Julian dropped his balloon and ran. Marcus caught his son in his arms for the first time, and everything, all the pain and loss and shame and struggle, became worth it. "Daddy," Julian whispered into his shoulder. "You came." "I came, buddy." Marcus held him tight, tears streaming down his face. "I finally came." Across the yard, Amara watched them. She was crying too. Not from sadness, from something she hadn't expected to feel ever again. Hope. Hope that the man who had broken her heart might finally have found the pieces of his own. The birthday party ended too soon. Marcus held Julian until the last possible moment, memorizing the weight of his son in his arms, the smell of his hair, the sound of his laughter. When it was time to go, Julian clung to his neck. "Don't leave, Daddy." "I have to go back to New York, buddy, but I'll come visit again, I promise." "When?" Marcus looked at Amara. She nodded slightly. "Soon. As soon as I can." Julian pulled back and looked at his father with those blue eyes. So familiar. So innocent. "Pinky promise?" Marcus hooked his pinky around his son's tiny finger. Pinky promise. He flew back to New York that night. The apartment felt emptier than ever. The silence was heavier. But on his wall hung Julian's crayon drawings, and in his pocket was a photo from the party, Julian sitting on his lap, both of them grinning like fools. Marcus had something to live for now, something to work toward. He picked up more shifts. He saved more money. He started taking online classes in business management. Not because he wanted to be a CEO again, but because he wanted to have something to offer his son, besides regret. 6 months later, he flew to Atlanta again. Then 3 months after that. Then every other month. Each visit, Julian grew more attached. Each visit, the goodbye became harder. Each visit, Marcus felt the pull of a life he could have had, should have had, if he hadn't been so blind. On Julian's 6th birthday, something changed. Marcus arrived at the Morrison compound with a gift wrapped in newspaper because he couldn't afford proper wrapping paper.
Inside was a children's book about a father and son who build a treehouse together. Julian loved it. "Will you build me a treehouse, Daddy?" "If your mom says it's okay." "She'll say yes. She always says yes when it's about you now." Marcus looked up, surprised. "She does?" "Uh-huh. She told Grandpa that you're not the same person anymore. She said you grew up." Marcus felt his heart swell. After the party, after Julian had gone to bed, Amara found Marcus sitting alone on the back porch. "Mind if I join you?" "It's your house." She sat down beside him, leaving a careful distance between them. "Julian adores you," she said. "I adore him." "I know. I can see it." She paused. "That's why I need to talk to you about something." Marcus tensed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. It's just—" Amara took a deep breath. "Julian's been asking why you live so far away. He wants to know why you can't be here all the time, like Grandpa is." "What do you tell him?" "The truth. That you have a job in New York. That you're building a life there." She looked at him. "But he's getting older, Marcus. He's starting to ask harder questions. Questions I'm not sure how to answer." "Like what?" "Like why Mommy and Daddy aren't together. Like whether you're ever going to come back for good." Amara's voice caught. "Like whether you stopped loving us." Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the chest. "I never stopped loving him. Or you." "I know that. But he's 6. He doesn't understand adult complications. He just knows that other kids have daddies who live with them, and he doesn't." "What do you want me to do?" Amara was quiet for a long moment. "I want you to consider moving to Atlanta." Marcus stared at her. "What?" "Not into the compound, not into my life in that way, but nearby. Close enough that Julian could see you regularly. Close enough that he could have a real relationship with his father instead of these sporadic visits." "Amara, I can barely afford to fly down here. I can't afford to move to Atlanta." "I know. That's why I'm offering to help." "No." The word came out sharper than Marcus intended. "Marcus!" "No. I'm not taking your money. I'm not being your charity case. I've spent 5 years rebuilding my life without handouts, and I'm not going to start now." "This isn't about you. It's about Julian." "I know it's about Julian. That's why I need to do this the right way." Marcus stood up, pacing. "If I move here on your dime, I'm just the ex-husband you're supporting. I'm just the failure who couldn't make it on his own. Julian will figure that out eventually. He'll see me as weak, dependent, everything I don't want him to become." "So what's the alternative? You stay in New York, working yourself to death, seeing him 4 times a year?" "I find a way to do it myself." "How?" Marcus didn't have an answer. He flew back to New York the next morning, his mind racing. He needed more money. He needed a better job. He needed to prove, to himself and to everyone else, that he could stand on his own 2 feet. But how? He was 43 years old. His reputation was destroyed. No legitimate company would hire him. He had no connections, no resources, no leverage. All he had was 10 years of experience building a company from nothing. The idea came to him at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. He couldn't build another tech empire. He didn't have the capital or the credibility. But he could build something smaller, something honest, something real. A consulting firm. Not for corporations, not for billionaires, for small businesses. Mom-and-pop shops struggling to compete with big chains. Startups run by young entrepreneurs who were making the same mistakes he had made. He could teach them what he had learned. Not the greed, not the shortcuts, but the fundamentals, the strategy, the discipline. He could turn his failure into someone else's success. Marcus started small. He printed business cards at a copy shop. He posted flyers at community centers. He offered free consultations to anyone who would listen. Most people ignored him. Some recognized his name and laughed in his face. But a
a precious few, gave him a chance. His first client was a woman named Dorothy, who ran a struggling bakery in Harlem. She was 62 years old, had been in business for 30 years, and was about to lose everything to rising rents and corporate competition. "Why should I trust you?" Dorothy asked during their first meeting. "I saw that video. I know what you did to your wife." "You shouldn't trust me," Marcus said. "I haven't earned it. But I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to let me help you save your business. If I can't, you don't owe me anything. If I can, you pay me whatever you think it was worth." Dorothy studied him for a long moment. "You're either the smartest con man I've ever met, or the saddest redemption story I've ever seen." "Maybe I'm both." Dorothy laughed despite herself. "All right, Mr. Whitfield, show me what you've got." Marcus spent 3 months working with Dorothy. He analyzed her financials, restructured her pricing, helped her develop an online presence, and connected her with local food bloggers who could spread the word. Within 6 months, Dorothy's bakery was profitable again. She paid Marcus $500. It was the most meaningful money he had ever earned. Word spread. More clients came. Small businesses, restaurants, clothing stores, family-run operations that had been passed down through generations. Marcus helped them all. Some succeeded. Some failed despite his best efforts. But he kept going, kept learning, kept growing. A year later, he had enough clients to quit the warehouse job. 2 years later, he had enough income to rent a small office. 3 years later, he had saved enough to move to Atlanta. On Julian's 9th birthday, Marcus showed up at the Morrison compound with news. "I got an apartment," he told Amara. 15 minutes from here. I'm moving next month." Amara's eyes widened. "You're serious?" "I'm serious. I saved every penny myself. No loans, no investors, no charity." He paused. "I wanted to do this the right way. For Julian. And for me." Amara was quiet for a long moment. Then she hugged him. It was the first time they had touched in 8 years. "I'm proud of you, Marcus," she whispered. "I'm proud of me, too." Julian was ecstatic when he heard the news. "You're going to live here? In Atlanta? For real?" "For real, buddy." "Can I come to your apartment?" "Anytime you want." "Can we build that treehouse now?" Marcus laughed. "We'll have to ask your mom about that." Amara smiled. "I think we can figure something out." The next 3 years were the best of Marcus's life. He built a real relationship with his son. They went to baseball games together. They built the treehouse, which was crooked and probably unsafe, but which Julian declared the best treehouse in the world. They had breakfast together every Saturday morning at a diner near Marcus's apartment. Marcus also built something else. His consulting firm grew. He hired 2 employees, then 5, then 10. He specialized in helping minority-owned businesses compete in markets dominated by corporations. His clients trusted him because he understood failure. He understood what it meant to lose everything and start over. He was never going to be a billionaire again, but he was making a difference. And that, he realized, was worth more than all the money in the world. On Julian's 12th birthday, everything changed again. Marcus arrived at the Morrison compound to find Amara waiting for him at the door. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked immediately. "Is Julian okay?" "Julian's fine. It's—" She took a shaky breath. "It's my father." "Solomon?" "He had a heart attack this morning. He's in the hospital." Tears streamed down her face. "They don't know if he's going to make it." Marcus didn't think. He just pulled her into his arms. Amara collapsed against him, sobbing. "I can't lose him, Marcus. I can't." "You won't. He's the strongest man I've ever met. He's going to fight through this.
You don't know that.
No, I don't. But I know you, and I know Julian, and I know that whatever happens, you're not going to face it alone. Amara pulled back and looked at him.
Why are you being so kind to me? After everything that happened between us?
Because you gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one. The least I can do is be here when you need someone. They spent the next week at the hospital. Marcus took care of Julian, while Amara stayed by her father's side. He helped with logistics, coordinated with family members, dealt with the media that inevitably descended when news of Solomon Morrison's condition leaked. He did everything Amara needed without being asked. On the seventh day, Solomon woke up. He was weak. He would need months of rehabilitation, but he was alive. When Marcus came to visit, Solomon looked at him with clear eyes. "You stayed," the old man said. "I stayed. You took care of my daughter, my grandson." "I did." Solomon was quiet for a long moment. "I was wrong about you, Marcus Whitfield." Marcus blinked. "Sir?" "I said that people rarely change, that they just get better at hiding who they are." Solomon's voice was weak, but firm. "You proved me wrong. You're not the same man who stood in that ballroom 10 years ago. You're someone else entirely." "I'm trying to be." "No, you are." Solomon reached out and gripped Marcus's hand with surprising strength. "Take care of my family. They deserve someone who won't let them down." "I won't, sir. I promise." Solomon nodded and closed his eyes. He died 3 weeks later, peacefully, surrounded by family. Marcus stood at the funeral beside Amara and Julian, not as an outsider, but as part of the family. When Julian cried, Marcus held him. When Amara needed someone to lean on, Marcus was there. And when the service was over, when the crowds had dispersed, Amara turned to him. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You've been more of a partner these past few weeks than you ever were during our marriage." "I'm a different person now." "I know." Amara took his hand. "That's why I need to ask you something." Marcus's heart began to race. "What?" "Julian needs stability. He needs both parents present, especially now that his grandfather is gone." She paused. "I'm not asking you to marry me again. I'm not asking for romance. But I am asking if you'd consider being more involved. Officially. Co-parenting. Sharing responsibilities. Being a real family, whatever that looks like for us." Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes. "Are you sure? After everything I did? You spent 10 years proving you're not that person anymore. At some point, I have to trust what I see." Amara squeezed his hand. "So yes, I'm sure." "Then yes. Absolutely yes." 1 year later, Julian was 13, tall for his age, with his mother's smile and his father's eyes. He stood in front of his class at Morrison Academy, the prestigious school his grandfather had founded, giving a presentation about his family. "My mom is the CEO of Morrison Capital Partners. She runs one of the biggest investment firms in the country. She teaches me that success means lifting other people up, not stepping on them." He clicked to the next slide. "My grandfather was Solomon Morrison. He built an empire from nothing and used it to help thousands of people. He taught me that real power comes from how you treat people, not how much money you have." He clicked again. "And my dad is Marcus Whitfield. He used to be a CEO too, but he lost everything because he forgot what really mattered. Now he runs a company that helps small businesses succeed. He taught me the most important lesson of all." A student in the back raised her hand. "What lesson?" Julian smiled. "That it's never too late to become the person you should have been all along." That evening, Marcus sat on the porch of his Atlanta home, watching the sunset. Amara was inside, making dinner. Julian was doing homework at the kitchen table. The sounds of a family, his family, drifted through the open windows. His phone buzzed. A text from Dorothy, his first client, now a close friend. "Just opened my third location. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Marcus smiled and typed back, "You did the work. I just pointed you in the right direction." He put the phone away and looked at the sky. 10 years ago, he had been the king of New York. He had owned everything and valued nothing. He had called his wife worthless and destroyed his marriage in front of 500 people. Now he had nothing by his old standards. No mansion, no sports cars, no magazine covers. But he had everything that actually mattered. A son who loved him, a woman who trusted him, a life built on purpose instead of greed. "Dad," Julian called from inside. "Mom says dinner's ready." "Coming, buddy." Marcus stood up and walked toward the house, toward the light, toward the family he had almost lost forever. As he reached the door, he paused and looked back one more time. Somewhere out there, the old Marcus Whitfield was still a cautionary tale, a viral video, a reminder of how quickly a man can destroy everything he claims to love. But that man was gone. In his place was someone new, someone better. Someone who had learned, through years of pain and struggle and slow redemption, that true power has nothing to do with money or status or the opinions of crowds. True power is waking up every morning knowing you're worthy of the people who love you. True power is building a life that means something. True power is becoming the person your child can be proud of. Marcus Whitfield had lost everything to learn that lesson, and he would spend the rest of his life proving he had learned it well. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The king of nothing had become the richest man in the world. Because real wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the hearts that welcome you home. And finally, after everything, Marcus Whitfield was home.